I'm so glad to say that it's nice to have the band back together. We've gone through different configurations, and there should be 18 of us. Right now, there's only 8 in. So I really don't know what's going on, but I know Chris Mincer is going to be back but he's now trying to find a place that has Wi-Fi. So now, let me see. Part of the thing when we split this class like this is that some of you didn't have certain songs. Let me check this. Who here is, throw a hand up on this. Who did Drowsy Maggie with us? Okay, so Bob, you didn't do it? Bob and Jim? Because some of these, what I want to try to do is go through some of these that we just finished. Drowsy Maggie, Little Cabin Home on the Hill, I'm a Pilgrim. Those are some great ones. Well, now Bob, so you were in 203. You just got out of 203, and that's why, isn't that right? I think that's it, yeah. Boy, there's a whole set of songs. That's a great set. See, and I think what's going to end up happening from here is when we come back in September, and we'll talk about this probably several times through, that we're just going to start with the whole group, the 203s that are now, and you guys starting in September. So we're not going to miss anything. The 203 guys now is going to be like in Bob's situation where he didn't get these last tunes. But you sure wouldn't mind hearing us play them, would you there, Bob? So let's go back a little bit because we got plenty of time. Let's go back into Big Coyote. Now, I'm just trying to think how I got to figure out how for the people that didn't do certain songs to get into that class that's going to do them. Yes, I can't send the music out because it's not fair to the people that were in that class, though now it's not fair to you that we're going to end up playing it. But, I've had requests on that, and I just can't, it's like when someone wants to come, it's like when someone comes to one of my workshops, a clinic, and they say, well, I'm just the driver, I'm just going to sit back in the corner. And then I find out that they play, and then they even ask questions. And I just say, it's really not fair to the other people that were actually in the class. You had to kind of miss it because that's the way the rotation worked. But, it comes up from time to time. This was in tune. All right, let's try Big Coyote. Bob, go ahead and listen to it. You may be able to get it right off the YouTube clip. And say, so who was in the 203 just recently that we just finished last week? I know Bob and was it Jim? Phil, that's right, Phil. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and play through this. And Ken, okay. Okay, somewhere in here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that was a good warm-up. Those that were playing it with me, how'd you do? Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, you know, I think probably instead of going through these, which I'd like to do, unless you had some questions on them, it just might not be fair to the others to show them what cool stuff we just finished. Uh, um, unless you had some comments or thoughts on that, because it's one of those things where you want to make sure everybody's happy with this, but you know, it's just hard to say what the best thing to do, because I do have a lot we can be talking about on to set up our Gold Rush. Now we did a Gold Rush. What class was that? That was it. One was it in the 100 series where we did Gold Rush? Who can remember that? It was in the 100 series, yeah, and it was something like a. Something like that. And we came up. All right, so of this group, who was in the class that did that? Okay, Bob, Phil, Ken, yeah. George, you were there, weren't you? That you weren't in that, George. That one, particularly if someone sends me an email, I'm going to send that out to you because it's not going to be that hard to learn. But one of the things that now not a lot. I don't think any of these songs, other than that one, Gold Rush, is being duplicated in this next set. But as time goes on, we're going to be doing harder variation on the theme, which is what we have here with Gold Rush, which of course is Byron Berline tune. So if someone reminds me, if someone reminds me, I'll send that to them, because it's a pretty basic. At the time it was tough, but it's pretty basic now. There's not a lot. The only thing we're talking about on that is it was when we got into jumping from the nut to the 7th position G, and we did that by doing something like. Let's do that a couple times. Let's just get this jump down. So we're talking about doing for the note readers in the groups is G, A, B, C, D, open E. You use this open E to launch down the neck to 7th position G, which is going to be of course your D shape at the 7th fret. But when you land on the you're going to land on the 8, the G note on the 2nd string, then the A, B on the 1st string, and then start coming back down. A, G, open 1st string, and then back down the neck. So it's this. Okay, so it's this. Okay, if you're doing this with me now, and it's okay, throw a hand up and then keep doing this. it down just a tad. Here you go. Jump up. Okay. Alright, so what this is really doing is jumping our positions. That's how, if you had to jump up the neck for a high note, mostly we can play down here. We don't have to play up here, because this is going to take away your open string ring. And when you take away the open string ring, it doesn't sound like flat picking anymore. You have to incorporate some of it in there. Okay? Which is why we have, in this version that I sent you, we have the two sides. We have the high break, and then we have the second part is a low break. Whereas on the original one that I'm going to send everybody, if I remember tonight, we had a low first break and then a high second break. Okay, now what we're doing though when we come down here is playing out of the G position, right? It's a D. It's a D shape. It's a G. That's my G spot right there. Okay. What I want to show is I want to go over our chord shapes, our chord centers. And I want you guys to be working on your chord centers, just visualizing where they are as we're moving along through some of these materials. Some of them, like the one we're doing next week, oh man, is that a good one. Man, I won't tell you the title though. Doesn't really have these kind of chord centers, but at the same time, whenever I play anything, I see the chord in the in the melody that I'm playing. And of course, you know, sometimes I see dead people too, so it's not that strange a thing. But so let's look at this then. If we had our G's going up the neck, of course the first G is right here, right? So it's a G that looks like a G. What we want to look at, and let's do it this way, what we want to look at is caged chords. And if you've been in one of my workshops before, you've gone through these. It's a C, A, G, E, D. So when you play in caged method, which we will do some in this session, you play out of C that looks like a C. Then you play out of a C that looks like an A, right? And the C that looks like an A, this is hard to do with me trying to find the question for you to come up with the answer. But what does the C that look like an A look like if you did it at the nut? What chord? So anyone, if you're not might not get what I'm going towards. If I did it at the nut, the A shape chord that I'm going to use and shape up down the neck would look like a B flat, because here's the A, right? But if I did the whole chord shape that I'm going to use as a movable one, it would be the B flat, okay? Because it's an A moved up one fret. But this A is going to turn into C. So there's a C that looks like an A. I've never done that before, but that was just lucky. All right, so there's a C that looks like the A. Now we're going through the caged. So the next one is the C that looks like a G. C that looks like a G. Here's your G. Okay, here's an A that looks like a G. G, G sharp, A. This is an old-timey A chord. Any questions on this one? Now, we don't have to hold the whole chord all the way across the fingerboard. We have to picture it. So while I'm just holding this part, I'm also picturing the bottom end. I'm picturing this part of the G chord, right? It'd be right here. Right? because you wouldn't hold the whole thing. This is what it would look like if you held the whole thing. And in Tennessee, that's an unnatural act. We don't do this here. Maybe in some of those Yankee states they do it, but not here. Chris will need to chime in on that one. I don't do that. Steve don't play that game. So I look at it as the two sides because I'm not going to hold the chord down at any point. If I had to hold the C chord down, I would have held this one down, not this one. Or excuse me, not this one. Stevie, don't play that game. Okay, but you got to picture the two sides of it. You got the low side and the high side. Are we okay on? So the C that looks like a G is played with a bar at the 5th fret and your little finger reaching out to the 8 on the high side, right? And I'm trying to do this slow enough and pause enough that you're actually fingering these chords down as well. Question so far? Are you lost anywhere? Okay, so you got this high side, and then you have this low side. Okay, that's your ring finger's going to be on the 7. First finger's on the 5. Across the 5. Your ring finger's on the 7. Little finger's on the 8. You can strum all the way down to the 2nd string. Now, keeping in mind when I play in this position, I'm not going to bar that fret more than likely. So there's Gold Rush in C, at playing just like I played in G. Okay, so there's the C that looks like a G. Where is the C that looks like an E? What fret is that monster going to be at? This one, everybody knows it already anyway. I don't know that you look at it this way. C that looks like an E. Right, it's going to be at the 8, looking like an E bar shape, right? Okay, now, here's the big one. So there was a C that looks like a C, a C that looks like an A, a C that looks like a G, a C that looks like an E. We need the C that looks like a D. Most people don't get this, so I'm going to tell you this in advance. Most people don't get it. Where is that going to? What is that one going to be? Kinda. Bob's saying 12. 7, 6. Trying to picture that. At 7, no, it won't be a 7. No, because we're already past 7. We did 5, and then we did 8. So it's going to be the next. It'll be down higher. This one you got to think about. And Bob, you're almost right. You got the right idea. This one will screw you up. I'm telling you now, because you never had to look at it this way. Let me give you a hint. Yeah, it's not really, because if we want to look at this one being at 8, because my first finger's at the 8, I can't say that this one that we're trying to find is at the 12. You got no. This is what most people do. Now, when you play at the 12, you're talking about this. Throw a hand up. You're talking about this one, right? Right. Okay. That's a C that looks like a C. Because at 12, I'm starting over again. Bob, you're on. I think you're on the track there. Let me open up your mic, Bob. Let me see here. What are we talking about then, Bob?
Well, I played bar chords forever. So if I was going to play the D card as a C, I guess I would consider the nut as a 10 and throwing the D out. It's 2 frets lower than the D, so you're on C.
So I think, let me meet you out here. I think and throw your hand up if this is what you're talking about. You got this D chord right here. This is the D. This is the C that looks like a D, and it utilizes the 5th and 4th string at the nut. So really, it would be like this. Is that what you were saying, Bob? And when I move it up, my chord is still at 12, but my first finger is going to be at 10. This one gets everybody. Hopefully you're giving yourself mental head slaps right now. Do! This one took a long time for me to figure out, because you all know this. I had no one to turn to. No lessons, no guidance. So I had to figure this crap out myself, and it drove me crazy. Look at this. See what it does? So now you have the C that looks like a C. You got the C that looks like an A. You got the C that looks like a G. You got the C that looks like an E. You got the C that looks like a D. Then you have the C that looks like a C. Which would actually, you could, if I had a cutaway, I could reach this, but I would be out here. I play out here, right? That's playing the C notes up in here. All right, that's pretty cool. And that's where, if you really wanted to study on that, pretty in depth, is my figuring out the fingerboard. If you've got that one, then you've had a taste of this already. Okay, now the reason I bring that up, because well, let's do this first. Let's learn by ear. Let's learn this high break to the second part to Gold Rush, which will go like this. Starting on 4 and 1, and let me play it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Something like that. All right, so it's here. 7 on now. When you play in 7th position, you're not going to lay one finger down across anything because we don't need to bar it, but your first finger is going to be on the 7, little finger on the 10, 8, open, and then down to the nut, 3, 1, open. Okay, when you have that, throw your hand up. I'll wait just a little bit. Okay, George, how are you finding that? Okay. All right. I think that's everybody in there now. All right, good. All right, so after that, do 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 do. Okay? That's the next phrase. So it's this. Now keep it in mind, you got 2 pickup notes. You got to hear that starting on a 4 and. 1, 2, 3, 4 and. Okay, again. 1, 2, 3, 4 and. Okay. If you don't have that now, work on this off the YouTube one. I want you to get this version down, and I'm going to send you the copy anyway. But don't mean that doesn't mean you're going to work it by ear. And then the next is starting on pickups, 3, 4, and. Again, it's. Again. Okay, so what we have is this, and see if you can do it with me. 3, 4, and. Okay, one more time, and then I'm going to check and see who's close on this. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Okay, let me know if you're. Let me throw some. I've got to throw some X's in here or something because I won't be able to. And those X's mean I really like you guys. Here they come. Okay, so how are we doing on that? If you're going to chat it in or throw a hand up, are we okay right there so far? Kindly, sorta. It just has to be kindly, sorta. Okay, good. Then it just repeats the same thing because you know how these fiddle tunes are. Repeats the same thing but has a different tag run. The tag run is the same. I used a different one in the sheet, but for right now, that's what we use. So, from the top. Okay, let's run it one time. One more time. Okay, so now, are we okay there? You don't have to have this great because this is just, I'm trying to get a point across on this. Okay, so you guys are okay enough in understanding what we're actually doing. All right, so then, university students, what position did we start that out of? It's in G. So it's the G that looks like a Is that mic on? No, because Bob, I caught you in a catch-22 here. It looks like a D that we know, but we're not using that D shape. Because the D shape there, it would be this, remember? This one, this D that we're using, but this D looks like a C. If we're using these notes up on this side of the chord, it's a D that looks like a C. If we're using the notes that are on this side of the chord, back in here, then it's a D that looks like a D. Okay, so this one up here is playing out of a G that looks like a C. Does that make sense? You're playing out a C shape right here. So if you held a C right here, I'm doing it without using my first finger. Now, if you can do that, which I wouldn't expect you just to be able to jump in and do it, but if you've gone through my Learn to Flat Pick #2 DVD, then you took the hint one time when I told you to put a popsicle stick on your first finger and then gauze and make a splint, and then the white tape, make a splint that you can take on and off your finger every day, and practice for about 5 minutes all the songs you do in the key of C. Okay? You could try G, but that gets a little tougher, but C, definitely. Whiskey Before Breakfast, Soldier's Joy, Billy and the Low Ground, those kind of tunes, without using that first finger. But if you don't put a stick and tape on there, you're going to have a brain glitch, and we know the other word for glitch. You're going to have a brain glitch, and you're going to see that your first finger's down there. When you have the splint there, then while you're playing, you'll start to hear this. Excuse me. You'll start to hear this, and that's that splint that's that finger trying to get on that string. You know, so try that. So what I did was I played this. But I did it down here in C without the first finger. But if you did like I said, Billy in the Low Ground, the first finger's not being used. And then you can move it up. Alright, so now that's playing in G that looks like a C. Definitely. Okay? But not a C that looks like a D. Okay, now, here's what I'm getting at, is that every one of these positions has two sides to it. So you're going to learn to play out of these positions through what we're doing, whether it be just little snips of it, or you go into it big time, working on the cage system, which I don't suggest yet. I like the little snips, and then the big picture becomes clearer, you know, as time goes on. But this is moving towards the big picture. The big picture is doing what I was doing right there. I had never played Gold Rush and C at the nut. I have no need to. But I never did. But I'm real comfortable with that position. I would play all the songs I knew at the nut in those 5 keys. All of them. You know? That's just what I did. Because, of course, I didn't have any movie money. You know, I just stayed in my room and practiced the whole time. Now, we all have a life, so we can't do that. Does anyone not have a life? Throw your hand up if you don't have a life. Yeah, see, no hands went up. So, therefore, you know, you're not going to do it like I did. I did like 4 or 5 hours a day, and I always found something I could be working on. All right, so now here's my point, though, is that each chord has 2 sides to it, and we're just going to take one little piece of the second side of G that looks like a C and G that looks like a D. They both start in the same place. All right, so the first one is here, and we didn't do this in the 100 series. But if you start with your third finger right here, that's the way you would play out of C that looks like a D. So you're going to play on the backs, on the south side of the chord. So your ring finger's now going to hit the B. First finger hits the A, little finger's going to catch the G. You still have the open string. Okay? We should also say, so you got 2 sides. In fact, when I started reaching down the neck, this was the one I found first. But then I started saying, well, I'm missing this ding, 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 ding. So there's got to be another way to do this, because I can't go. That's going to be too choppy. I can't do that. So I found the same notes on the other side of the chord. On the other side of the chord. Okay? So, are we okay so far? Throw a hand up on this one. Because I don't want to just totally confuse you. I've got 2 hands up, so where's the rest of... Okay, see now, let me point this out too. Every time I jump down the neck to in this song, I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing this. Same chord, 2 sides. I'm just seeing it though. So that's why we went through all these chords, but we're only going to do this one on 2 sides today. Okay, so we have this high break to the second part to Gold Rush. All right, what you can do with this one is start it with the 3rd finger, 3rd, 1st, little finger, open. Coming back up, use your 2nd finger on this 8. So you get used to both sides of it. Actually, do it this way. So the first half of it goes twice, right? First half of it, use the south side of the chord. So it's 7, 5, 8. And you're going to use those same frets coming back up. Little finger, 1st finger, switch. They all the shapes have 2 sides to them, and that's what I want you to. So when you when you think you've got it down, so that you're playing. Now here's the other side to this chord. Let me show you, this one will make sense to you. You got this C chord here. We're playing on this side of it. The other side of it is this C. It shares this pivot point of the 5th fret. It shared it back here. It shares it right here. Does that make sense? It's sharing the same fret. And there's a good example of seeing the 2 sides of that shape, of this area of C. So when I find my D chord here, it's sharing my next D. Okay, I just want you to go back to review this because that's some really good stuff there. But I don't want to. I could keep going and show, but that's not good teaching. So I got to stop at this point because it's really like an overload thing. You have to picture this D shape, but you have to picture it on 2 sides. I can play the notes up here, or I can play the notes back here. This one, going this way, is going to lead me to the next G. And we should do this. If you got your D shape here, which really is C shape, right? Lay your little finger out on a note on the 1st string that makes it sound good. Okay, this high note here is the beginning of the next chord shape. The next G going up is the one that looks like an A. Right? So it's 12, 12, 10. Look at it this way. Here's your D. Here's reaching out to the 5th fret to catch that same stretch, the same high note. And the next D is attached to it right here at this high note. The next D is attached to it here at this 7th fret going across. The next D is attached to it right here. Okay? And then the next one is detached in a way. Did you see how that worked? Is there any questions there? The chords are attached. And the next chord may be the other side of the chord that you play out of. Okay? So, as a brief overview there, let's do this real quick. Here's your D. Here's your D with a high A. This high A is the beginning of the next chord that looks like an A, coincidentally. Okay? The bar across the 7th fret is the beginning of the next, is the start of the next chord that looks like a G. The next one, the next chord is the one that looks like the A. Oh no, it looks like the E. Okay, so I've got this D. Okay, I want you to try to play through those shapes. I don't have it written down anywhere. Well, it's in the Figuring Out the Fingerboard, but I don't have it written down here. But you've got the video. You can write down your chord charts. You can connect your chords. You know, this was starting with D, and then D, and then D, and then D, and then D. But if you started on any of the chords, they're going to run through those shapes. But actually, if you took the chords and put them on a tread, like a tank tread, and shifted them around, right here I'm starting on the one that looks like a G. The next one's going to be this one. Okay? Then the next one was this one. Then the next one was this one. Then the next one was this one. And then the next one was this one. Okay? It just starts on a different one of those chord sets, but it's the same chords repeating themselves for every chord that you play out of. Okay? It's just those. It's a D shape, it's an A shape, it's a G shape, and it's a E or a F shape. Then it repeats, goes to a different chord. Okay? Play around with those. Do it for D, and then do it for C. C, then the C that looks like an A, then the C that looks like a G, and then the C that looks like an E, and then the C that looks like a D. Those you can just reach straight up. On the C set, does anyone have any question on them? Okay, this will be something to chew on. This is chewing material, okay? Now, when we're playing, let me go ahead and get into this Gold Rush, because we have two high positions that we're playing out of here. One is the C G, the G that looks like a C, and we can call it a D, but it's really not, you know? I mean, you know what I mean? So I may say jump on that D shape, but it could be a D shape, but it's not the G that looks like a D, because we're going to play on the high side of it. You know what I mean? So as long as we got our bearings right. Let me play through this Gold Rush. You'll see what we're going to do. now starting off, the reason I went through these chord shapes is because I don't want you to think you're starting on a 7, 9, 8, 10, 7, 8, and they're just random frets. Any time you play in the neck, it directly relates to a chord shape that's behind it somewhere. It may be invisible, but it's behind it somewhere. There's right here. Let me show you what we're doing down here. If I did it out of C, because that's what this shape is. Now I'm shifting to my first finger. It says 1 and 3. I'm shifting into this next C shape. Okay, so that's what we did up here. Got the G. Then I'm going to shift to my next G shape. That's exactly why I went to those chosen frets. I didn't go here, I didn't go here, I didn't go there, I didn't go there. I went right here because that's where my G is, and that's where I'm going to find my melody notes. Okay? One more time then. Shift. Okay, so you've got the hammer on in the middle of this mess here. Now the fingerings are marked there. Use those fingerings, okay? Oops, I just noticed one wrong. This is a test. The 13 that's on the second string, measure 3. Okay, make that, that's going to be a 4th finger hitting it. Oh, okay. Let me mark mine so I'll know to keep bringing that up with you guys too. All right. So that's going to be a 4. See where I've scribbled it in there? See that 4? Okay. All right. That's real important. I have the rest of them right. And then the 2 on the 12 in the next measure, because you're landing into this position. And by the time I get to that next measure where the 12's on the 3rd string, I've got my first and second string held down too, so they're still ringing. Then you shoot back here. Of course, I had to have you come down the neck to get out of position, and then we go back. Okay. Okay, any questions on the top part? Now here's a case. The reason that I'm staying on this side of it, let's see, is because I needed this high note, right? If I didn't need the high note, that was just kind of goofing around on the theme to Gold Rush. But I need these up here. Okay, then we go into the second part. Starts with a hammer-on triplet, running right into the second string. Now notice the fingerings. I'm using first and second finger the whole time. Okay. We don't have to get the second and third finger in the mix here. Let me take it at the end of the second ending. Okay. Questions, comments, any questions? Throw a hand up. Real easy to open a mic there, guys. All right. So, particularly for the ones that came in late, I'm going to highly suggest that you work through the YouTube clip, because there was a ton of chord-shaped material that we're going to use as reference to, and that if you're not using it now, you'll use the rest of your life, your guitar pick in life. You know. So we discussed how the cage system is how it works into this. And really the example of the best, if I was playing Gold Rush in C, now I've not done this before, so I can fall on my face just as good as anyone. Oh, Don, we started 8:15. I just saw that. Anyway, so what I was doing was playing out of the caged positions. Okay, so I played C that looks like a C, C that looks like an A, C that looks like a G, C that looked like an E. Here could be the C that looks like the D. And I'm just making up fiddle lines in my head. Now I'm in the C that looks like a C. And the only reason I would have to move up is if I heard the next higher pitch about to come in there, and that's where I went to. Because otherwise I could stay here. Otherwise I could stay here. Otherwise I could stay here. Or here. Or just here. Okay, so this Gold Rush, work on the other Gold Rush. I'm going to email you guys as well. All right, questions, comments? Don, did you hear it was starting at a different time or what? Because, yeah, it's 8:15 Eastern time is when this class starts. Bob, let me open up your mic. Hold on a sec. Come on now. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, just like you're right in the next room.
Okay, Steve, do you reckon, because, I've spent time before learning scales, and it seems like you kind of sound like you're playing scales when you do it, especially like the blues scale and things like that. This looks like it would help you follow more of the melody,
well,
like this approach.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, what you're doing is playing melodically up and down the neck. The problem is that's why I don't want to say not to work on scales, because at this point everybody here could spend a little time working on scale patterns, and what they'll actually do is connect your chords. But what I just did connects the chords, and I played a melody there, So for me, I had a scale book, and it had tons of scales in it, and I was saying, well, this is never going to end, and this is so damn boring. I would much rather play Soldier's Joy. And then I learned to play Soldier's Joy all the way up and down the neck using the cage system. And I didn't know it was the cage system. I had no idea there was a name to it. But I'm playing melodically up the neck. And I think, for me, that some of that comes from, I heard Dave Greer say one time that he plays the songs he knows in 12 keys at the nut with open strings. Open strings weren't available. So you're doing, actually, no, he said that he plays Blackberry Blossom in all 12 keys at the nut. And I said, well, first was like, why? But really, you have all 12 keys right there within 5 or 6 frets. So you really could do that. But I think if you don't have a melody in mind that you're playing with, then you're just going to be doing a... And that was just too boring for me. I went through about 2 pages of the scale book, and then I didn't throw it away because I'm too cheap, but I put it on the shelf and buried it deep, you know. They're just not a point. This method here will get you playing whatever melodies you play down here, which you guys by now know a lot of melodies down here. But this method will get you playing them up the neck, you know. So anyway, let me see. Let me mute you out there. Any other questions there? So to recap that, I don't want to say not to, you know, work on scales. And there are some scales that we will work on. We'll work on diminished scales and augmented scales because those scales turn directly into licks. You know, so we'll end up working on those. Minor scales, not really, because we'll learn some minor songs. And the minor songs will give us ideas of what to do. We just did in I don't know which group, maybe if you were in the 100 series at the end, I think we did Lonesome Fiddle Blues. Or was it the 200 series? 202? I don't remember. We did Lonesome Fiddle Blues. But the group, 202, but the group was doing it right here. Instead of right here. So those are a bunch of minor ideas. It just reeks of minor, right? So I don't need to work on a D minor scale to be able to, all I got to do is find where a D minor chord is, and then all the notes I need are going to be around that D minor chord. Now, when I started that, I had to come up with a melody, which is why I did this. Yeah, it's crappy, but it got me minor notes because I knew there was my D minor chord. Okay, there's my D minor chord. So I can play out of the minors that way because I'm just running songs melodies that I've got in my head. If I didn't have the melodies or those tons of fiddle tunes that I worked on, I wouldn't have this ability to do this. So learn all your songs and stuff, you know, learn all the tunes. Okay, any questions on this? This Gold Rush is going to be a good one for you. And this may be a piece you work on for a little while. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and hold it there, gang. It's just about seconds away from clicking off. Okay, great. We'll see you guys. We're at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. Okay, no problem, Don. I couldn't do one at 9:15. Oh, it'd kill me. Or Donna would kill me. Okay, let's hold it there. See you guys next time.